What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. This is Legitical Response. We cover political news. We keep you up to date and keep you informed with everything that the government does. We also love to counter the mainstream narrative machine, the corporate press. They love to lie. They love to twist facts. They want to make you believe something that is not true. They frame things in a certain way to push their narrative in a certain direction and get around facts. You know, facts to the left and to the corporate press and all these people are just an obstacle to overcome. They don't need facts to make an argument. They don't need logic on their side, right? They can be totally illogical, right? Men can be women. Women can be men, right? We can play in each other's sports. I can go into the other gender's bathroom. All this other stuff, right? Like criminal aliens are citizens too. No, they're not. A fetus is not a human type of thing. It's like, no, that doesn't logically make sense. But we're talking about the corporate press today, and the corporate press lies through their freaking teeth. They have been captured by the left. It's very apparent to anybody coming in and looking and reading the news objectively, right? Like, you start reading these things out, like I do it all the time on this channel. Y'all know this. We read out the news and then we'll go over something that was framed in a specific way that skews it to a left-wing narrative to make the corporate press make you believe something. Like I said, we go over this all the time, but now we actually have somewhat proof of that with this upcoming story. Check this out. NPR suspends editor who claimed left-wing bias at outlet had lost America's trust. Yeah, you're a little bit late on that, buddy, I would have to say. You know, you've lost America's trust a long time ago. You know, pretty much ever since 2016, right? When y'all started becoming blatant with your bias toward the left, right? Like, it was obvious, right? Like all the Trump hoaxes that came out, all the false narratives about Trump, all the false narratives about anything that had anything to do with conservatives, right? It was always BS. You know, the Covington Catholic incident, right? Like, they put out this video and, oh, look how outrageous, this kid just sitting there smiling in the face of this, you know, Native American person, right? We'll come to find out those kids were just standing there, and this Native American come up in his face and started beating the drum in his face, and all he was doing was just sitting there smiling, right? Like, the Native American was harassing the Catholic kid. But the mainstream corporate press tried to twist it around and make you think it was the Catholic white kid, the evil white person, that was harassing the Native American, right? It was totally opposite, right? Like, take George Floyd, for instance. Right? Like, I went over this yesterday. The corporate press, I believe, in my honest opinion, and let me know what you think about this down in the comment section, should be completely and 100% liable for all damages from the 2020 BLM riots, right? Because they skewed that story to the left in such a degree. They tried to make George Floyd look like an angel and Derek Chauvin look like a Nazi Hitler-esque type of rogue police officer who was just out there looking to kill black men, right? Like, that's what they tried to make you believe by skewing that story, not giving you all the facts, not giving you all the details. As a matter of fact, lying about certain details. They didn't tell you George Floyd's past and what led up to him being arrested by Derek Chauvin. They didn't tell you all the actual incidents, that the little things that happened before Derek Chauvin put George Floyd on the ground and put his knee on his neck. They didn't tell you all these things to make you believe that it was totally unjustified. Like they didn't report on the fact that George Floyd was trying to use counterfeit money, right? They didn't tell you that George Floyd punched a pregnant woman. They didn't tell you the litany of drugs that George Floyd was on, which caused his death. They tried to make you believe that it was Derek Chauvin's knee on his neck that caused him to do that, right? Like, they tried to make you believe that cops aren't supposed to do that, right? Like, they didn't tell you none of this stuff. They didn't tell you that George Floyd was sitting comfortably in the back of a police cruiser with the air conditioner going, screaming, "I can't breathe, get me out of here," because he was having a freaking heart attack because he overdosed on fentanyl. Right? Not to mention all the other drugs that was in George Floyd's system, right? They skew these stories. Ahmaud Arbery's another case, right? Like, it was just a black jogger, was lynched by 3 white men. That's not the case, right? Like, he wasn't a jogger. He was breaking into construction sites and probably, because we never got to finish that investigation, because the McMichaels ended up killing him, right? But another thing they didn't tell you is that Ahmaud Arbery went after the shotgun to take it from Travis McMichael. They didn't tell you that. They didn't tell you there was a struggle and Travis ended up with the gun and shot Ahmaud Arbery. Well, that's all they told you, was they just ran him down and shot him, right? Like, one of the guys just followed them in a separate vehicle, right, to film the interaction to keep everybody safe, right? He got put in prison for 35 years. Got a 35-year sentence, right? But the corporate press tried to make you believe that it was all 3 of them just ran this guy down and lynched him, essentially. But the corporate press just constantly lies. But that was a really long intro, I guess. Let's get into the story. NPR has suspended the senior business editor who penned a scathing online essay claiming the radio network had lost America's trust by embracing a progressive worldview, prompting fierce right-wing backlash and calls to defund the public radio network. David Folkenflik, reported on Tuesday that Yuri Berliner's 5-day suspension without pay began last Friday, and a written letter notifying Berliner, of the suspension. The network said he did not first seek approval for work in other outlets as is required by NPR. It described the notice as a final warning, stating Berliner would be fired if he violated NPR's policy again, Folkenflik reported. An NPR spokeswoman told CNN the outlet does not comment on individual personal matters, including discipline. Berliner did not immediately respond to a CNN request for comment. The disciplinary action came after Berliner's openly ridiculed NPR's news coverage in a 3,500-word piece for the anti-establishment publication, The Free Press, claiming the broadcaster had failed to properly cover allegations Donald Trump colluded with Russia in the run-up to the 2016 election, the controversial COVID-19 lab leak theory, and the New York Post's Hunter Biden laptop story, right? Like, and these are major stories, right? Like, everybody thought Trump was a Russia plant, right? Because Hillary Clinton made up a fake dossier and then had the FBI involved. Like Barack Obama knew all this was going on, right? Like, he condoned this. So it was the federal government went after a presidential candidate. They were spying on his campaign, right? Like the Hunter Biden laptop story, right? Like, we know for a fact, I say for a fact, through polling that of a lot of people, by the way, it was a pretty big poll, that if that story, the Hunter Biden laptop story, and all of its information would have came out before the 2020 election, right, that a lot of people, 10%, which was plenty to sway the election, would have voted for Trump instead of Biden, right? So they essentially changed America's history on that one. And it's the corporate press who is at fault here, right? So any of you guys out there that still watch, CNN, MSNBC, and all the corporate press, ABC, CBS, NBC, all them people, if you still watch those people, you are being lied to. They are framing these stories in a specific way to lie to you. It's not just NPR, right? Fox News is bad about this too. They're not as bad, but they are bad. And they're right-wing, supposedly, right? But Fox News is corporate press, and they lie all the time. Berliner used his complaints about how those individual stories were covered by his colleagues to draw a sweeping conclusion that NPR had lost viewpoint diversity and started telling listeners how to think, which they do. NPR editor-in-chief Edith Chaplin quickly pushed back against Berliner's characterization of the outlet, telling staff in a memo that the network management strongly disagree with Urey's assessment of the quality of our journalism and the integrity of our newsroom process. We believe that inclusion among our staff, with our sourcing, and in all our coverage is critical to telling the nuanced stories of this country and our world, she added. Other NPR staffers publicly rejected Berliner's assessment in social media posts. Many things wrong with terrible Berliner column on NPR, including not observing basic fairness. NPR TV critic and media analyst Eric Deggans wrote, didn't seek comment from NPR before publishing, didn't mention many things which could detract from his conclusions, set up staffers of color as scapegoats. Yeah, that's not skewed to the left, by the way. Many things wrong with terrible Berliner column on NPR. Basic fairness, not observing basic fairness. Okay, sure, buddy. But Berliner's essay prompted immediate backlash from Republicans and right-wing media, with many accusing the network of liberal bias and calling for the publicly funded outlet to be stripped of its grants from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. And they should, because they are heavily biased towards left-wing ideology. Just look at the CEO. That's all you got to do. On his Truth social media platform, Trump called NPR a liberal disinformation machine that not $1 of government funds should be sent to in the future. No more funding for NPR, a total scam, Trump ranted. On Fox News, the network's host fanned the flames of outrage with hours of programming about Berliner's essay. Woke NPR Exposed declared an on-screen banner, or chyron. I don't know why they didn't put chyron, because that's what it was, an on-screen banner. It's called a chyron, by the way. On Fox News' most-watched program, The Five, NPR pumped out an assembly line of propaganda, blared a separate chyron on host Jesse Waters' primetime program. Berliner, however, did not go nearly that far in his piece, and he stressed in his essay that defunding the broadcaster isn't the answer. In an email to CNN on Wednesday, Berliner that he rejects the notion that NPR is a liberal disinformation machine, as Trump stated. Yeah, Trump is, hyperbolic probably 90% of the time. He goes, above and beyond what you should. But you know what? Trump is not the corporate press. Trump is a political candidate. He's a presidential candidate, right? He is not supposed to be the bastion of truth. He is not supposed to be the purveyor of facts. He is not supposed to be the source of information for the American people, right? That is what NPR is supposed to be. And the fact that they cover all these stories and they, when they can't actually lie, they just skew the story in a certain way just to make you think, make you push a little bit left in your brain instead of pushing a little bit center in your brain and just giving you the facts. But they will set these stories up to skew it to the left. They don't ever skew it to the right, or they don't ever give you just the information. They'll always give you some sort of left-wing backdrop to make you automatically go in that direction, right? Like Trump, the racist, did such and such and such, right? Like, why call him a racist? Right? Like they do this all the time, right? Like they do it. It's something that pisses me off, right? When they'll say like a black man was killed by a white cop. Like, why say it that way, right? Now you're trying to push an anti-cop narrative here, right? Like, why not just say a citizen was killed by a cop? Give the names out, blah, blah, blah. Just give the facts. Don't give your left-wing bias, right? But can you really blame these people for going to the captured institution that is most colleges? These people go to journalism college, journalism school, and they learn, so they get skewed to the left because the left has captured these colleges, so they teach them left-wing liberal arts, if you will, right? Like, so it's all pushed in that direction, and then that gets into the corporate press and is pervaded outwardly from there, by giving everybody a left-wing bias, trying to push the country in a certain direction just to prop up their own worldview and ideology, right? Like, it takes people like me to get on here and actually read this stuff out, think about it for a second, and realize that, oh, they're trying to skew this story. It just blows your freaking mind. I have not seen Trump's comments, but the quote you cite is not the first time he has attacked the media, he wrote. Yeah, he attacks the media a lot because they give out fake news all the time. He has done it countless times before and will no doubt do it many times again. In the days since the right-wing revolt against the outlet has continued, NPR's chief executive Kathleen Maher has also faced criticism from the right over old tweets skewering Trump. NPR spokesperson Isabel Laura dismissed the attacks fueled by right-wing activist Christopher Rufo, saying Maher was not working in journalism at the time and was exercising her First Amendment right to express herself like any other American citizen. There you go. There's your justification, right? But that's not going to change the character of that person. Just because they weren't in journalism at the time doesn't mean they're not going to think left-wing just because they get into journalism. That's not really a good excuse. And that's what I mean. Like, they threw that in there just to make you think, oh, well, she's not biased. Okay, she was just expressing her First Amendment rights. She's not biased, but no, that whole setup, that proves she is biased, right? Like, that statement, okay, now she's working in journalism. You think she's not going to take her biases with her. No, everybody carries their biases around with them all the damn time. You can't help but do it. I have mine. You guys have yours. Let me know what they are down in the comment section. Do you agree with this video? Do I come off as trying to be biased to the right, biased to the left, or biased to the center? You might think, well, you can't be biased to the center. Yeah, you can. You can. It's hardly done these days, but you can be biased and try to stay away from right and left-wing biases, I guess, if you will, if you want to put it that way. But y'all let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comment section. Do you think the corporate press is biased hardcore to the left? Let me know what you think. Or do you think we have, an even breakup of left, right, and center? Let me know what you think down in the comment section. That's all I got for this one. I want to thank everybody for watching. And y'all try to have a good day. And stay legitical. Peace.